Hey everybody, welcome to the program. Tonight we are going to talk a little bit about ladder bracing versus X bracing on guitars, on acoustic guitars. And I want to start off by saying I'm not an expert. I'm a guy that has some guitars. That's all. Okay, I'm nothing more than that. I'm a mediocre player at best because I've heard real good guitar players before and I don't fit that category. And I'm far from an expert on guitar construction, but I will say I know more today than I knew, 10 years ago. And so I thought for those of you out there that might not really understand much about guitar construction and it's something you're kind of interested in a little bit, and it's something you should be interested in. If you play acoustic guitar, it's something you should know a little bit about. And you've come to the right channel because I just know a little bit about it. So I can at least help you with maybe knowing more than you did before you got on the channel and saw this video. I always picked up guitars, if they look good, or if they felt good, or if they looked good and felt good, and they sounded okay. I was kind of okay with the guitar. And that's how I bought guitars for most of my life. Later, I found out that the wood, the choice of wood for top, back, sides, neck, the whole 9 yards, bridge, matter. And not just that, but I would say that was my first step to learning a little bit about guitars. And then my next step was I heard of this thing called bracing in a guitar, and I didn't really understand what that was. So that's what I want to talk a little bit about. And I got two examples tonight. They're both the old Silvertone made in the USA guitars that you used to buy out of a catalog. If you've been on the channel before, you've seen both these guitars. One of them is this 1969 Silvertone behind me. And it's one that I had picked up 4 or 5 years ago that Scott Baxendale had rebraced and reset the neck. And then I've got in my hands, a 1956 to 1959. It's really difficult to date these to the exact year, but we know it's a 56 to a 59. But it's interesting to note that, first of all, both of these guitars were originally ladder braced. And I'm pretty sure that's right on that 69 Silvertone. It wasn't uncommon with catalog guitars that they came with ladder bracing. Apparently ladder bracing is pretty easy to do. It's fast, it's quick. And so you may go, well, what difference does the bracing make? Well, it makes a lot of difference. It makes it's a large part of the sound that you're ultimately going to get out of the top wood on a guitar. Now, the back and the sides do matter from a tone standpoint. But the top is probably the most critical piece of that puzzle because it's your actual soundboard. And underneath, inside the sound hole, you have bracing, which actually voices the guitar. Now, most of the early guitars, not all of them, but most of them were ladder braced guitars. I can't remember exactly when some of these, the Gibsons, the Martins, really began putting X bracing in guitars, but you can find some that date pretty early with X bracing. And I'm going to put a couple of photos up. So I'm going to put one up now. That's not the inside of this guitar. It's not the top, underneath the top of this guitar, but it looks very much like what's under the hood here. And so I'm going to put that photo up right about here and let you see what an example of a ladder braced guitar under the top looks like. Now you've got bracing along the back, on the back of this guitar, and you can, if you look in there, you can see the strips running vertical inside the guitar. for the back, and that actually provides the bracing for some stability on the instrument itself. And then up underneath the top, you have what I call the bracing that voices the guitar. And it can really impact the sound, particularly how the braces are set in there underneath the top and how they're shaved and carved. That really does direct a lot of the tone out of a guitar. And there's a clear difference between the sound of the guitars. Now, I don't prefer letter brace guitars, but I do like the tone of a letter brace guitar, which is why I picked this one up. Because to me, a letter brace guitar has more of a woody kind of a tone to it. It's something you would have heard, if you've listened to any of the old Delta blues, it has that really woody, thumpy sound to it. Decent sustain from the letter brace guitars that I've played. And if you pick up some of the newer ones, like the Collings line, the Waterloos, and I think probably some of the Collings actually, they have letter bracing in some of those that they offer up today. I think the WL12? I think it's the WL12 they offer in either a letter brace or an X brace. You can buy either one of their modern day guitars. Beautiful sound to them, and of course, the more these luthiers have learned over the years about these guitars and how to carve these braces and really draw sounds out of them and find that perfect niche sound that needs to come from a guitar. It's really not, it's not even so much a preference as it is, I think you will find, I don't know that I'd find anybody that only owns letter brace guitars. You may find people who only own X brace guitars, or maybe the Taylor V-class bracing under the top of the guitars. You may find those folks, but I don't think you're going to find anybody out there that just, all they've got is letter brace guitars, and that's what they like, and that's all they play. I haven't run across that individual. I'm not going to say they don't exist, okay? So you see from the photograph up there that I've got up on the letter brace that the braces of the guitar run vertical under the top. So straight up and down, okay? And so the way the sound travels and vibrates inside that guitar, it really does give it kind of a woody tone. And I would say, and let's just do one here, an E chord, and just listen to the sustain on it and see if it doesn't come across as more of a woody tone than what I'm going to put up here in a minute with the X braced Silvertone. Now these guitars are separated by about 10 years in time. But they're about the same size. The neck on this one may be just a little bit bigger than the one behind me. There's a little bit of a V to this fat 50s neck. But and I think the neck is part of the equation. How much of the equation, I don't know. But I know there's a luthier or two on this channel that watches the channel, and maybe they can deep dive into this a little more in the comments, and we can learn a little bit more. But there is a distinct difference in tone in the guitars. Now that's pretty dadgum good sustain on the guitar. Prior to the X bracing, that 69 Silvertone would have sounded a lot like this. This is actually more of an Adirondack spruce top on this old Silvertone that I've got in my hands, with a birch back and sides and some kind of poplar wood for the neck. It's pretty thick. And the Silvertone behind me, the 69 model, has a spruce top, and it has birch back and sides and has some kind of poplar wood, I would assume, for the neck as well. The neck's not quite as thick on that one, though. As time went on, this neck size reduced a little bit, and of course there's a steel rod in the one behind me in that neck. It's not adjustable, but it is there, okay? So let's take a look at that one. Well, there's a quick video, folks, on ladder brace versus X bracing and the difference in the tone between two guitars that are, for all practical purposes, a little, other than maybe the neck being a little thicker on this 56 to 59 Silvertone, for all practical purposes, built out of the same woods. And there's a tonal difference. I can hear them playing it. When I'm playing it, and but I love both the guitars. Now this one behind me is my pride and joy. But I think that ladder brace gives you a little something that kind of takes you back a little bit, you know. It does give you the turn of the century sound. But there you go, folks. X bracing versus ladder bracing. The tonal differences are pretty stark. But I like both of them. You know? Some point I hope to pick up. I'd like to get a Collings 12 fret that's ladder braced. One of the more modern ones. And just see what that's like, because I'd love to have a 12 fret Collings, and I'm surprised I hadn't bought one yet. So maybe I will at some point, but just wanted to show you X bracing versus ladder bracing and why and how that's going to produce a different tone from the guitar. A little more woody to me for ladder bracing, not a bad thing. The X bracing, you're probably going to get a little more volume, and you're going to get a little more sustain than you're going to with a ladder brace guitar. At least the examples that I have played, that's what I have experienced. And that doesn't mean they're all like that. But it's just what I've experienced. Two guitars, similar and very pretty much the same size, just a little bit different neck width, circumference, let's say. So there you go, folks. Bone nut, bone saddle on both of these. This one's got ebony pins, and the Silvertone behind me has bone pins. So there is a difference there. But my experience with ladder brace is you are going to get a little more woody tone. That's another reason why I went ahead and, these ebony pins are in it, and I just left them because I like that woody sound out of it. And sometimes I'll sit around and play it and try to do some old school stuff, and this is the guitar for that. So it's not that you can't pick another guitar up and make that happen, but I like the sound it produces when I'm doing that style of music. So yeah, there you go, folks. 1956 to 1959, somewhere in that general vicinity. 1969 positively on this other one behind me, both of them made in Chicago. And yeah, this is what happens when you take one apart and you put somebody's hands on it that really knows what they're doing, and they put their own brand of X bracing in it and pay close attention to what they're doing. And that's what that guitar behind me represents. Could have bought that guitar out of a catalog for probably $30 or less whenever it first came out. Might have been $10 or $15, I don't know. But you ain't touching that one for under $2,000, I can tell you that today. And I'm not sure, I can tell you right now, if somebody offered me $5,000 for that guitar behind me, I wouldn't take it. I just wouldn't take it. That is my all-time favorite triple O that I've ever played or heard. So, yeah, it's a keeper. It's a keeper. All right, folks, I hope the video was informational for you and you got a little bit out of it. Maybe you know a little more now than you did before you tuned in. Again, I'm no expert. I'm just a guy with some guitars that maybe knows a little bit more than he used to know, or at least thinks he knows a little bit more than he used to know, and that's highly possible too. But it's amazing what really impacts the tone of a guitar and the construction of it and how it's built. Anyway, hope it was informational for you and you learned something out of it. And if I got anything wrong here and you're in a luthier, well, feel free to drop it in the comments. I think when people correct you, you benefit from that. All right? So, yeah, feel free to drop your comments and either confirm or deny. Appreciate you joining the channel. It's always good to see everybody. I hope the video wasn't too long for you, and I hope you picked something up. Take care of your friends. Take care of your family. God bless. We'll see you next time.